Good afternoon, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for Thursday, the 16th of August, 2012. Here's a look at Tropical Storm Gordon over a heat potential map. This base map is from NOAA and the AOML Hurricane Research Division site, showing the amount of heat content in the Atlantic Basin. Gordon over fairly low heat content values, and that's going to be the case throughout its entire forecast track. But it is forecast to become a hurricane, and that is my point here, that you don't have to have higher heat content like you see through here, and especially in the Caribbean and the Southwest Atlantic, to get hurricanes. Sometimes over the lower heat content values like you see here, equating to what's going on in Gordon's path, you can still get hurricane development, especially if the environment around the storm is favorable with what are called thermodynamics. That heat content really comes into play, especially with hurricanes, with a very good environment around them. The higher the heat content, the stronger the storm can be, the hurricane can be, usually. A satellite picture of Gordon, you see a very vigorous circulation associated with it. Fairly small in size overall as it has bundled its energy. It cannot spread out too much because it'll start pulling in drier, more stable air around it. Sea surface temperatures and heat content, like we just looked at, throughout this region only marginal at best, but Gordon is going to do the best it can to take advantage of those conditions. The track map for it, you're probably familiar with this already since you've got the wonderful Hurricane and Hurricane HD tracking maps. Nevertheless, this is what Gordon is supposed to do over the next 5 days, maybe passing close enough to the Azores Islands to warrant a little concern there. And then it could head over towards possibly Spain, Portugal, France, if it can hold together, being that it's only mid-August. Water temperatures over there fairly warm, but you do have the Canary Current that runs along the eastern Atlantic down here that's cold water. So you never know. It probably will weaken, but we'll see. Stranger things have happened. Looking at it from a different perspective here, you can see Gordon in the northeast corner of this particular satellite shot. And I think it's easy to tell. No convection, except for a little bit here in Central America. The Atlantic's still very negative for development right now. And it's going to probably stay that way for the next several days, although there are some changes coming. It looks like you never want to hold your breath too long for those changes because something bad might happen, but I do see some changes possible. And if we look at the MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, this favorable tropical convection and upward motion pulse that is tracked around the globe via various means, this is the forecast for that. Here's where we are today, and the blue here is the GFS operational, the green is the GFS ensemble mean, and the blue showing kick out more into the favorable area over the next 2 weeks, whereas the green kind of hides in no man's land where the amplification of the MJO is very weak. So we have a little bit of a divergence here between the two. If it does manage to get out into this area, then the convection and the upward motion in the Atlantic could be pretty substantial, and we may have a 2-week, maybe 3-week window where things become very busy all around the Atlantic Basin. So we'll watch this closely, and I'll examine it in each of the daily outlooks here. Looking ahead just a little bit, 3 days into the future, this is from today's 12Z GFS, valid on Sunday morning, shows a large envelope of energy with a surface low, fairly vigorous, in the eastern Atlantic. There's Gordon getting closer to the Azores, which are right there. And then we might have a weak low pressure area develop in the western Gulf of Mexico as that energy that was once Tropical Depression 7 made its way through and winds up here in the southwest Gulf. I don't see any indication that anything significant would develop out of this as far as a hurricane threat, but choppy, squally, windy, rainy conditions may be in store for the western Gulf over the next 2 to 5 days. And then we'll really watch this area here. A lot of the models trying to develop a Cape Verde system and bring it across the Atlantic to some extent. Then the question will be, does a big trough dig in over the east and kick it out, as we've seen so many times over the last few years? Or will it be able to track west for several days after? We'll have to wait and see. All right, so that's your outlook for today. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. Always glad to make these videos available to Hurricane and Hurricane HD, and we'll do it again tomorrow.